So it's almost become common sense now to claim that the Democrats are in big trouble in this upcoming election. But wait, we might actually have some good news. Let's talk about it in today's video. Hi, I'm Mike Greiner. I'm a lifelong Democratic activist who's concerned about the direction our country is taking. I'm also a lawyer and an academic, and I'm here to help you stand up to the BS of the MAGA crowd. So as my regular viewers know, I tend to be a bit of an optimist. Maybe some might say even too optimistic. I always look for the bright side of things, and, I want to believe that people are generally good and things are going generally well. It's been hard to stay optimistic, though, with the way things are going lately. It seemed like the last straw was Joe Biden coming down with COVID, for crying out loud. But today, we have some good news. Turns out, of course, that Biden is getting over his COVID, which is fantastic. We're glad to see the president's doing well. But on the political side, we have some pretty exciting news. For the first time this year, poll aggregator 538 has stated that the Democrats are favored to win the Senate in November. That's a big deal because one of the truisms in politics at this point is the idea that the president's party always loses seat in a midterm election. And that should be especially true in the situation that we're in right now. Because, of course, Biden has had to deal with multiple crises, none of his own making, quite unlike the last guy who managed to make a new crisis for himself every day. I mean, it's not Biden's fault that the Russians invaded Ukraine. It's not Biden's fault that the world is dealing with inflation and gas shortages and supply chain problems and a pandemic that just won't go away. I mean, we even had baby food shortages, which had nothing to do with the president, but still was an issue he had to deal with. Talk about having a whole host of problems dumped in your lap. And truth be told, for the most part, although I have my issues with how Biden has handled some things, overall I think he's done an okay job. I mean, his handling of the crisis in Ukraine has really been admirable. And it's great to finally see an adult in charge in dealing with these various economic crises. But no doubt, everything that's been going on has certainly hurt his poll standing. The irony is that his poll numbers really started to drop when he withdrew the United States from Afghanistan. He did a lot of videos on that whole situation, but it was unbelievable that he was finally withdrawing the United States from this war, rescuing over 120,000 of our allies, and people attacked him for it. It seemed like he couldn't win for losing, and that's certainly how things feel right now. But again, as I said, we now have good news. Check out this graphic here from poll aggregator 538. Again, for the first time in this election cycle, you can see that the Democrats are favored to win. Now, the way that 538 puts together this analysis, which is why it's so compelling, is that they'll actually take data from all the different polls out there and put them together. And then based upon that data, they'll then run simulations to see which party wins each time based upon differing circumstances. Well, as it turns out now, in 52 out of 100 simulations, the Democrats are winning. Now, do I wish it were higher than that? You bet I do. But with everything that we've been through, I'll take it. For the House, not so good. And a lot of that has to do, of course, with gerrymandering. But certainly the Democrats still have a chance with a little bit of luck and a continuing shift in our direction of public sentiment. That should be encouraging. And if you look over here at what's called the generic ballot, which is basically when pollsters will ask voters if they prefer to have the Democrats or the Republicans in control of Congress, you can see that Republicans have really been favored all year. But the Democrats, if you look at it right here, are starting to close the gap. So that's certainly encouraging news on the political front. What's more, and I nearly fell out of my chair when I read this article, is it appears that Joe Manchin has relented and agreed to support a package of legislation that will be passed through the process of reconciliation in the Senate, which means that they can pass it if all the Democrats vote for it and not a single Republican votes for it. And apparently, this package that Joe Manchin now favors will include things that are very popular, like the ability of the federal government to negotiate drug prices, also an extension of the healthcare subsidies that started last year, But what's more is he's also signaled that he is willing to agree to certain climate provisions and certain tax provisions, most notably taxing the rich, things that he had been opposed to as recently as last week. This change means that the Democrats will actually have something substantive to point to in the upcoming election to show that they're actually getting things done for people. All of this is really good news for Democrats and what really is a very tough political environment for us. And that, on top of the increasing number of small dollar contributions to the Democrats, at the same time that Republican small dollar contributions are drying up, something I reported before in another video, are all indications that we as Democrats should keep our fingers crossed that this year might not be as bad as some of us had been fearing. Well, if you want to check out my video over here, you can find out more about my analysis of the situation in Afghanistan and how really President Biden deserved a lot of credit for how he handled the situation rather than all the criticism that was leveled at him. I'll see you then. In the meantime, let's hope for continued progress. Thank you.